This is my garden, and this is the most prolific area. I started gardening this way after I took a permaculture design course. It showed me the design science behind all living things. And what I did here was cut the land on contour so water flows at a 90-degree angle to it, and then I planted the right things. And the system is actually extended. We're actually 20 feet away from that. And I didn't plant up here. And it's not just a little food. It's a lot of food. And the reason this works is because we're extending the patterns of nature and the systems of nature. This area was gone over by a chicken tractor. And the chickens fixed nitrogen into the soil. They pre-tilled it for me. And they got the life in the soil up so that when I planted, all the potential just exploded out of the land. I didn't put very much effort. I'm not spending tons of money. And I'm getting the most nutritious food possible. And with permaculture, we can actually prove that it's nutritious. We can test the food. You can also see that the food is healthy simply by the system that it runs in. But then I also saw these blooms that started happening, where the moisture that was being collected in these areas was starting to extend down. And the system, even though it extended up, was also extending down and following the path of water. So we have things like melons that, you know, I didn't plant these down here, but they certainly traveled down here. Animals have transported things because I don't have fences. They've brought in things like this. This is nightshade. This is like a wild tomato. The birds brought them in for me, and then they feed on them and don't feed on my plants, so that my system can be even more bountiful. The fun thing about all this stuff is that the food is basically free. You either have to water it or set it up so that it retains water really well with a good sheet mulching system. That's why I plant the seeds I plant. That's why I save seeds, because I don't want to have to pay for it all again. And so I'm able to support my system throughout time because I'm able to harvest from it and take seed from it. And as I extend, I'm going to be able to plant all this for free. Most of the soil actually repels water because it's so dry that it's impermeable. And the only way to force it is actually to build up water pressure so that it comes down. And that's how we recharge the land, and that's how we recharge our springs, and that's how we eventually recharge our aquifers. And actually, we can see right behind me, we can see up the hill that all the water is going to actually be coming down this area. And that's probably why the stones are bare here. And it's going to be caught in my swale right here. And this little walkway that we're walking in, this is going to fill up with water and charge back into the hill. And I've actually put even swales on contour inside the swales, so that in here, water will collect and it will always focus to where my plants are planted. And then over time, I can plant trees in here because the soil life will be super happy. Milk's getting more and more expensive, and when you milk your own, it's really not that expensive, especially if you have a system where you have a habitat for the animals. You provide all the food. So the only thing you're doing is actually just a little bit of work. 5 minutes in the beginning of the day, 5 minutes at the end of the day. James here is learning how to milk. He's learning a lot of skills here at home. And we're doing a homeschool program, and we're also teaching a lot of permaculture here at home as I'm writing the first K through 12 permaculture curriculum for American schools. It's taught in other areas of the world, but the permaculture science has not been taught outside of college in America. There's about 40 programs. I'll be creating the first high school program starting next year at Minarets High School. And so James here, he's a huge help here on the farm. He helps a lot with the animals. He's our horse trainer and our horse expert. The world I grew up in, you really didn't need very many skills, it feels like. It feels like you go to college, you learn how to memorize facts and work quickly, and you do just fine. But the world we're entering is actually more of a DIY economy, more of bartering, trading, more of generating your own energy, food, and wealth. And in order to do that, you really need sustainable system design and science. And that's what permaculture gives us. We have a problem with consumption in our society and resource management. And it's really not an issue of good or bad or right or wrong. It's really just an issue of education. And that's why I think it's really important that this next generation understands permaculture, so we can just gradually change from a system where we consume and mine the earth into a system where we work with the earth, and as we benefit the earth, we benefit ourselves. If people understood this, they'd be able to feed themselves. We'd be able to have all of our food be local. We wouldn't need to be exporting food, importing food. We could live on our own, DIY, independent, and self-sustaining.
Our family really has grown in abundance over the years, beginning with homeschooling our children and having a small garden, a beehive, some animals. But it's really kind of all come together through permaculture. And when it's time to eat, it's kind of nice to be able to walk on your property and kind of pick out the food. But it definitely gives more time as a family because we do everything together.
But so many kids nowadays can't cook, they can't make food.
Yeah, they can't build their own fires.
And not only that, they see the pragmatism in it, and they see the practical nature of the science behind it in physics. And I think that for a lot of kids who don't have PE, for a lot of kids that don't have nature around them, they don't get the natural science that at least I did when there was a woods behind my house growing up. And you know, that science was the most minimal science you could get. But here in a permaculture system, I mean, you see everything interact and you understand the systems and the life energies, the biology of them. During World War II, there were these things called victory gardens. Half the garden would be a chicken yard, the other half would be the garden, and then they would switch them. And all the prolificness is this. This is mostly chia, some cowpea, lots of mustard, kale, arugula. This is my son's garden. I wanted them to be able to play and run around and hide and have adventures. And this is, see, he's right there. Come on, Ollie. Come on. So this is Oliver's garden. You can see corn growing in here. Yes. Arugula and kale. 7 different kinds of mustard. Permaculture is the glue for our family and the glue for the future.